Hey everybody. So I thought tonight we could read more of these letters from the Looney bin. Hey Mama 3. I don't know, I'm just like I really love these. I don't know how to explain it. They've piqued my interest because you never know the other side, like what the patients go through in its entirety. You only know what you're being told basically. All right, now we're on chapter 7. Hey Teresa. Hey SD. I am exhausted. I need a good nap. Well, maybe not right tonight. I mean, like, a good sleep. Holy, yesterday I felt like this. Today I feel no, I haven't even started reading yet. Just tired. I haven't been sleeping very well. Going to bed at like 5 in the morning and getting up at noon is just wow. Or even like 5, yeah, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning. Sometimes I just can't sleep. All right, chapter 7. This one is called Dill Liberator. I'm writing you because I know you're involved somehow. Something's going down, and I can feel it. I can see it in their eyes. I want to be a part, want to help them, and get out of here too. They think I'm crazy. I'm a crazy old lady, so they don't come to me. They think I'm too crazy to be of help. Pretty bad when crazies think you're crazy. Just because the damn pickles are out to get me, they all stare at me as though I'm a madcap. Even the lettuce and tomatoes are laughing at me. They think it's funny that the other patients call me wacko. But I'm telling you, Dr. Quill, I'm not a loon. No, he's on March break. He's got this whole week off. That Dr. V is an asshole, I tell you. He had me locked up in solitude for a month just because I threw away all the pickles, then lit the trash on fire. The lettuce and tomatoes weren't laughing then. They were shaking like a toss. Oh, that's kind of funny. Nothing worse than being in solitude. Alone, no sound, no anything. Makes you think you aren't alive. That you are just there in a void of nothing. I didn't like sleeping either because that just meant bad dreams. The bad dreams were the worst. Of course, it was always dreams about pickles. That's, I love pickles, but dream about them. I don't think so. The worst dream I can remember was when I was on a playground yelling at a bunch of pickles that were standing around talking, but they wouldn't listen to me. They just kept talking louder and louder, so I walked over and kicked them all. The pickles rolled all over, then got up and started chasing me. I ran to the front doors of Emerson Rose, but the doors were locked. I saw Dr. Huxley in the window, and he shook his head and wouldn't let me in, and then all of a sudden I turned into a pickle. I screamed and screamed, then I woke up. It was beautiful to watch that kitchen trash can on fire, watching the blaze and the pickles as they screamed to their death. I smiled and I waved goodbye. I did. A couple of them tried to make a run for it, but I threw them back in, little dill weeds. Now they're back and they won't leave me alone. Dr. Huxley made them go away. Alora Finkel, the pickles, lettuce, and tomatoes are only your enemy if you allow them to be. I asked him once if he was on the pickle side. If he was the pickle, he looked at me sternly. Alora, do I look like a pickle to you? I fish-eyed him real good, then realized he was too nice to be a pickle. That is funny, but also heartbreaking that this poor woman is scared of friggin' pickles. But pickles are everywhere, you know. I couldn't go anywhere without seeing one. When I was 11 years old, my mother dropped me off at the orphanage. That became my new home. But there were pickles there too. No matter where I go, there are pickles on somebody's plate. If I saw the pickle on the other kids' plates, I would scream and throw their plate. That's how I ended up here. It doesn't mean I'm a loon just because pickles talk to me. And what an odd thing. I've never heard anything like this. Look at that fat, lard Delta. She's the real loon, going around thinking her looks are more star-ish, but she's ugly gone criminal. Hell, she'd scare the bumps off of a pickle. Stupid cow. At least I can look in the mirror and know what I look like, an old haggard woman. Like that one in Snow White movie giving her the apple. The pickles have made me age something fierce, I tell ya. Dr. Huxley knew I wasn't crazy. He did tell me that my words scare these patients. I can't help it if these slow asses can't keep up with my words. One day, I was trying to warn a patient that he had a vicious pickle on his shoulder. The wacky came up to my face, threw his hands in the air, and yelled, "Bloody, bloody, blah, 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 blah," or something like that. Anyway, he scared the living bejesus out of me, and I slapped him across the face. He stopped yelling and stared at me while I glared back at his crazy ass. Dr. Huxley was there all of a sudden, telling the crazy to go to the recreation room, and then he looked at me with scorn. "He's the crazy one," I pointed out. "He was mimicking you, Alora. That's how you sound to others." What? I crossed my arms tight. "I don't sound like that crazy ass. Maybe it does not sound that way to you, but it does to them. Do you want the patients to slap you when you do that?" "If it sound like that crazy ass, then yes, but I don't. So nobody better be slapping me, or so help me. Okay, Miss Finkel, why don't you get over to the recreation room and work on your painting?" It was the most sensible thing the doctor said in that conversation. He told me we would work on my perception of things, but the next day, Dr. Huxley was dead. Then that asshole, Dr. Dillweed Van Whatever, came along, and he's been worse than any damn pickle I ever met. Can you tell them, Dr. Quill? Let Sable and the rest know I'm not crazy. They won't listen to me. Let them know I now have the pickles on our side. The pickles want to help us. They can, you know. The head pickle, Gustav, he has many great ideas. I keep him in my pocket during the day under my pillow at night. Gustav says if we all drink pickle juice, it will give us great strength to defeat Dr. V and his evil people. Tell them I will help. Tell them to drink the pickle juice. Tell them that the pickles will help set us free. Oh my gosh. Now we're on chapter 8. This one's called Not So Bad. May 20th, 1978. Dearest Dr. Quill, my name is Delta Fay. I will begin by informing you that I do come from the utmost prestigious of upbringings. My father was a prosperous oil man in Texas and quite influential, you see. Although I never had the pleasure of meeting his acquaintance, my mother told me of his many attributes. After mother gave birth to me in Dallas, we moved to Nevada, where he was to join us. His work, however, pervaded his doing so, although he sent mother money often, so she had never had to work. I was fortunate in that my mother was able to be home with me all day. At night, however, she always dressed up real pretty. Mother told me how she had to go out to night parties to mingle among the influentials. It was important for mother to attend these parties, you see, for that's what a proper socialite does to secure her future. These parties are to make sure my little Southern belle is taken care of well. She would tell me as she patted me on the head. I always had Sally there at night to watch me. She attended day parties, so it worked quite wonderfully. Sally was real amiable, but not as alluring as my mother was. I believe Sally was much older than mother, but she always claimed they were the same age. Mother had always called me her Southern belle and said my beauty would make Scarlett O'Hara jealous. Scarlett is the main character in a book called Gone with the Wind. Mother began reading it to me when I was little. That was until I learned to read, then I read the book to her. I love Scarlett O'Hara. When Mother's party dresses were too old for her, she gave them to me to wear. I would dress up in them, put on some of Mother's makeup, and prance around acting like Miss Scarlett. Oh, Rhett, please don't go. You can't leave me, please. I'll never forgive you. Sally said it was quite the sight, which meant beautiful. I never had a rep butler, but mother said I did not need one. She said a real Southern belle needs only her beauty and charm. When I turned 10 years old, mother and I moved to California. She said there were more profitable parties out there. Mother said the sun always shined, and with my beauty, I could have what I wanted because California was the land of opportunity. But did not turn out that way, Dr. Quill. The sun did not always shine in California. We had been there no more than a month when mother was arrested for attending a party. She said the police did not like socialite parties. She said it was because they were not allowed to attend. So it made them real jealous. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a In Nevada, the police could attend the party, so we never had any trouble. California was real different that way, and mother was arrested many times. Starting to think mother may have been a prostitute. Then mother did not return for several days. I was in her studio apartment alone because mother said I no longer needed anyone to look after me and that I had become a very self-sufficient young lady. I was eventually living off the last of the canned soup, and that was all we had left in the cupboard. I had no money to buy groceries, no phone to call anyone. It was so cold as our heater did not work properly, and only one blanket covered the mattress on the floor. I tended to myself by alternately reading three books I had: Gone with the Wind, Animal Farm, and a streetcar named Desire. Then one day there was a knock on the door. I answered it without thinking and without looking through the tiny peephole first. A lady dressed in a two-piece suit stood in the doorway. She was a police officer. There was a police officer standing next to her. Are you the daughter of Fay Morgan? The officer asked. I could feel tears burning in the back of my throat. Where's my mother? I choked, then burst into tears. One of the ladies squatted. Your mother's fine. She's just in trouble and will be gone for a while. The lady grabbed my hand and I snatched it back, thinking to myself, will she be gone? Where's my mother? What's your name, honey? The lady asked. Delta Fay, I sobbed. That's a beautiful name, she smiled. Well, Delta, would you like to go with me and get some ice cream? I was ever so cold, although I had a blanket around me, but I agreed to go get ice cream because I was so very hungry. The lady took me to dine for lunch at a local cafe. She explained how I was to go live with a temporary family. She told me it would be some time before I could see my mother again. But the truth of the matter was, Dr. Quill, that I was never to see my mother again. In a couple days, I was forced to reside with the horrific Jones family. They had five heathens for children and were insufferable, bearing no manners at all. I tried to pay them no attention, but sometimes that was not so easy. I would dress up like Scarlet and recite from Gone with the Wind, saying Gone with the Wind. Those other kids were just horrible and would laugh at me, saying I was crazy, saying I was gone to the bin. The oldest girl, who was 17, was the most evil to me. She would say I was so ugly that it was no wonder my mother and father dumped me. Then one night she was getting ready for a date, and I needed to go to the bathroom real bad. She was ratting her hair with a pick and hairspray, and I told her nicely I needed to use the ladies' room. She told me I was no lady, and I could pee in my pants for all she cared. Then she looked at my reflection in the mirror and saw that I had put makeup on. Good God! She put the cigarette hanging from her mouth into the sink and then picked up the hairspray can. Did your mother look a whore as much as you do? She began to laugh as she sprayed her hair. Without her knowing, I picked up the lighter next to the sink, flicked it on, and held it next to the back of her head until it ignited the spray from the can. The hair blew up in one big poof. I watched in amazement as the ball of fire quickly swept over her head and onto her face. The girl screamed frantically as she tried to feel for the water faucet, but I kept knocking her hands away. Her screaming became louder and louder. Then I heard footsteps running up the stairs, so I made a quick escape at the back door. They found me a couple days later, and I was put into a hospital. When the mother came to visit me, my hands were strapped to the sides of the bed. Do you, she said, and began to cry, do you know, you awful little girl, what you have done to my Cindy? Her face, she will never be the same. I mumbled softly in response. Mrs. Jones moved closer. What? I mumbled softly again. Irritated, she demanded loudly, speak up, you vile child. I responded softly, I said, then suddenly, loud in her ear, I shouted, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn about that bitch daughter of yours. It's funny because you just said that. She slapped me across the face and I began to laugh hysterically. She ran out of the room, blubbering about me being crazy. Shortly after, I was sent there. I do have my dear sweet Charlie, though I am unsure of his actual height. When he stands next to my 6 foot figure and I took look down at him, he seems pretty much like a circus midget. However, when he stands next to others, he clearly is not. His round puppy eyes, round cheeks, and round belly remind me of a sheriff. You know those little chubby angel statues you see in gardens? Charlie always beams the most beautiful smile when he sees me. If his heart flutters as wild as his eyes do whenever I'm around, then that young man is truly in love with me. Charlie calls me his belle. He says it means beauty in French. He's quite intelligible about that sort of thing. Charlie is not much for talking when others are around. When I'm the only one in his company, Charlie tells me stories of all the traveling he has done well, back when before he was here. Hey, cool gamer. Charlie goes wherever I go, and I do adore his admiration, though I do declare I do not have the same feelings for him that he does for me. For that matter, he is truly no Rhett Butler, but he is, well, quite frankly, he is Charlie. They tried to break me here, Dr. Quill. The other day I was in Dr. Frank's office. He sat with his old skinny legs crossed and his beady eyes staring at me over his wire-brimmed glasses. He looked a whole lot like a deadwood weasel. Delta, you are not pretty. In fact, you resemble a wildebeest that has fallen into a bucket of makeup. How could you say that to one of your patients? Oh my gosh. These people are cruel and inhumane. I was not acquainted with what a wildebeest looked like, but he had made it clear that it was not something pretty. His comments did not bother me. No, sir. The way he was so adamant about making me feel ugly, I knew my beauty bothered him, and it gave me the upper hand. Why, thank you, Dr. Franks, I smiled. I'm aware my beauty is more than most men can handle. He pushed his wide glasses to the bridge of his nose, uncrossed his legs, and leaned forward. I see, he squinted. So tell me then, how do you feel about your mother making money from men? Oh, shit, so she was a prostitute. I will not repeat the rest of his vulgar words, but I will tell you, I came off that sofa, put my hands around his throat. Never, never speak of my mother like that. My fingers gripped tighter, and Dr. Frank's face went stark white, and his eyes looked like they might pop right out of his sockets. I picked him up, then let go, and dropped back into the chair. I grabbed my shawl off the sofa and looked back at the petrified Dr. Franks. Never, I said, as I pointed my finger at him and sauntered out of the doorway. That night, 6 orderlies and a nurse came to my room. The nurse gave me a shot that knocked me out, and then the orderlies, I suppose, carried me to a room I had never seen before. When I awoke, I was in a large leather chair with a tall back, and my hands and feet were tightly strapped. Bright buzzing lamps shining down on me. A doctor I had never seen before came in. He was Chinese or Japanese or something like that. English was definitely not his first language, and his manners were worse than that of the Jones family. There was only one nurse, and she stuck something on her head. Next thing I knew, I was being electrocuted or whatever they call such a thing. It was quite awful, and tears did find my face in that moment. The next morning, I woke in my room, a little out of it, but I was fine, really. At lunch, Charlie kept looking at me with eyes that asked what happened. I'm fine, Charlie, I said, trying to reassure him as I patted him on the head. He did not seem convinced. Sable and Jackie come to me after lunch to ask if I wanted a chance to get out of here. I told her I was fine and where else would I go anywhere? Judging by her perplexed look on Jackie's face, I am not sure they'd given much thought about where they would go either. Nonetheless, I am not going anywhere, and that Sable needs to watch her ways. Dr. B has many eyes and ears around this place. If Sable does not be heedful, she will end up like the others, resting in peace amongst the trees behind Emerson Rose with only a number to remember her by. That is so sad. Well, Dr. Quill, Jackie mentioned that you were requesting letters to record the final weeks before Sable's plan is executed. For the record, I wanted to assure you that I like my stay here at Emerson Rose. These doctors can fry me like an egg, but my spirit will always remain strong. I do not support this insane plan of revolution, as it surely seems foiled from the start, but I suppose it will be fine if all goes well to planned. On the other hand, I have too many fools think themselves clever, for they had fools supporting them to think so. With distinguished salutations, Delta Fay Morgan. So there's one person who didn't want to go. or who doesn't want to be in on this plan of breaking it out. Hey, Deb. Oh, no worries. I gotta eat. Now we're on chapter 9. This one is called Burned. Dear Dr. Quill, welcome to the Freak Show, brought to you on behalf of Dr. Vanadin, where we have wackos, both patients and staff alike, for your constant entertainment. Yes, it is the ridiculous, preposterous, idiotic circus of psychos. Step right up. This place is pathetic. The way these patients talk to themselves, hit themselves, paranoid and scared of everything. There's even this guy here who dresses like a woman. Sad thing is, he looks better than the rest of these chicks here, especially that walrus that looks like she's got attacked by some whacked out Avon lady. Now that's a bad case of the uglies. Too bad there's no pills to cure that. That is so mean. Anyway, it's ridiculous here, the way these nutcases run around. It's just a building full of people too damn lazy to be normal. Seems like they're just faking this shit. Why not? In this place, they don't have to take care of themselves or be responsible. Not even for their crazy actions. It's all bullshit. I watch them. I watch them all. They go about being normal, and then a nurse or orderly comes into sight and they go into crazy mode. It's all a scam, and everyone here knows it and plays along. Patients pretend to be crazy and take the meds, participate in the groups, saying what everyone wants to hear. The workers here believe it all because they have to. Or guess what, Doc? They're out of a job. But I'm not falling for this bullshit. I'm way the shit more sane than these workers here are, but they don't want to see that. Especially that bitch nurse, Darlie. She runs the happy group they make me go to, or I get zapped in the head. I don't mean to laugh at this person. Speaks the way they write is quite funny. Darlie sits there and looks at me with her frog eyes, pointy nose, and prune lip face that I want to just punch, and tells me I need to get in touch with my anger. I'm not a brat. Well, I can be, yeah, sure, whatever. I told her why don't I sma I told her why don't I smash her fucking head in, and let's see how that makes me feel. I feel like I shouldn't be laughing, but this girl's funny. 'Cause she's right, this nurse is telling her she wants her to get in touch with her anger, so then, yeah, why doesn't she just smack her fucking head in and see how that makes her feel? How that will help me get in touch with my anger. She had escorted me back to my room. She needs to get in touch with the stick up her ass. Oh, I'm glad this isn't a horrible one. This one's pretty funny. Who the fuck is she anyways? She probably had everything handed to her, yet she waddles around with her big ass and thinks she has all the damn answers. Like she knows what it was like for me growing up. She couldn't have handled one day in my house with my father. I barely threaten her and her granny panties get all in a ruffle. Maybe I should burn her all over with lit cigarettes, threaten to kill her. Then, as she is yelling at me to stop, I would tell her, "Don't let it get to you. Get in touch with your anger, darling." This girl's had enough. Oh, you can tell. My father loved to use me as a human ashtray, and I'm the one who was put in the fucking loony bin. It's bullshit. When I was 6 years old, my father thought it real funny to reach out to me like he was going to give me a hug so that I'd run to his arms. But right when I got within reaching distance, he'd kick me. I like her humor. I'm glad she still has it while she's in this piece of shit place while she was there. Her father? Wow. Boys don't hug, he'd yell. I already learned not to cry in front of him because boys do not cry either. Oh, this is a boy? I thought it was a girl. Oh, wow. Apparently it's a boy. My bad. I wasn't the only punching bag. Mother had her share too. That was until she left him and me anyway. I ran away once when I was 13. When the cops returned me, my father was so fucking pissed for embarrassing him that I ended up with a broken jaw. Which, of course, I claimed I got from falling. Doctors know, but they don't say anything. Shame on those doctors. And shame on the mother for leaving him. After that, I decided to do what I could to stay out of the house and got a job at a gas station. I was a gas attendant and made pretty good tips that I tried to hide under my bed. After my father found out, he made me give him my paychecks. He said it was to help pay the bills, but it mostly went for liquor. I didn't give a shit though because I just wanted a reason to stay out of the house. Wow. The guys who worked there were really cool and let me work as late as I wanted. I look back now and think that after seeing my black eyes and burn marks, they most likely knew what was going on. Then one night, my dad showed up at the gas station. I was playing cards with the guys in the garage when he pulled up and stumbled out of the car. He held up a gas can. Hey, gas boy, fill her up, he slurred. I jumped up from my chair and walked over to him. All I wanted to do was get him in the car and get him gone. Let's go, Pa. I said, fill her up, boy. I tried to grab him and put him back into the car, but he sucker punched me and I fell to the ground. The guys jumped up from their chairs. What you gonna do? He dared them. I jumped up, still dizzy from the sucker punch. It's okay, guys, I'm good. Ah, are these your cute little friends who sit around boo-hooing with you? This guy's a dick. Yeah, Pa, that's what we do. Now let's go. That's when he passed out in a drunken stupor and fell to the ground. The guys helped me get him back in the back of the car. I filled up the gas can and told my boss to take it off my paycheck, then drove my father home. I was the same height, yet only slightly stocky at the time, so my father's passed out 5'8", 250-pound balding fat ass was too heavy for me to even think about budging. I picked the full gas can up off the floorboard, looked at the disgusting piece of snoring shit, and softly closed the door. I waited for a second to make sure he didn't wake up, and when I was sure he was out for the count, I placed the gas can on the hood of the car. I ran into the front door and quickly packed whatever would fit in my backpack. I grabbed a Zippo lighter off the kitchen counter on my way back out and ran back to the car. I poured the contents of the gasoline can onto the hood. I lit the end of a stick laying in the front yard, threw it on the doused car, saw the blaze start, and darted off. I was some yards away when I heard the explosion. I smiled. I got my jaw cracked one time. And the dentist that took my wisdom teeth out thought that I was being abused, and they asked my regular dentist that I went to for wow. At least he asked though. I mean, obviously it didn't happen, but at least they have to. They're mandated reporters. He said there's no way my parents did it. He was right because when it happened, I was drunk and told someone they could punch me in the face. And they, you idiots. I bet that tickled dumbass. Oh my god. It actually broke my jaw, but it was just a crack. Oh my God. Right, Deb? It is. You're 15. Oh my God. Oh yeah, I think we've all done some stupid shit. I hitched rides until I ended up in a city. I was able to get a job as a gas attendant and live in a roach motel until I made enough money to live in a building one step from being condemned. I had more rats than it had tenants, but it was still better than living on the streets. I could afford food, beer, and getting tattoos. My first tattoo was a 2-inch black heart with red and orange flames around it. I tattooed it on my right forearm so I could see it every day and relive the warm, pleasant feeling of freedom that filled me when I heard kaboom. Things were good for a couple of years. Then one day there was a loud knock on my door, and when I opened it, there stood two cops. Mr. Joe Henry? The fatter cop with the buzz cut asked. I just looked at him. Are you the son of Patrick Henry? I pulled the cigarette from behind my ear, put it in my mouth, and then lit it with the Zippo. Who wants to know? I asked. There was a couple seconds of silence, and then the scrawny cop with curly red hair finally spoke. Your father. He's been looking for you. Oh shit. He's alive? I choked on the cigarette and took it out of my mouth. That sorry son of a bitch who fathered me, he's dead. You've got the wrong guy, buddy. I put the cigarette back in my mouth, then went to close the door, but the fat cop stopped it with his foot. You may think he's dead, Mr. Henry, but I can assure you that your father is very much alive. The other cop barged in and circled behind me. You're under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. I was transported to the jail back home where I found my father was still alive. Oh no. It seems when I went to pack my bag, he had gotten out of the car and passed out on the couch. He saw me run past with my backpack and then grabbed the lighter, but I never saw him. I hadn't checked the back of the car, just assumed he was still there. You're lucky it did heal properly, Teresa. Holy crap. I had the same thing happen to me, and that's why I've got TMJ in my jaw. Yeah, it hurts my ear. It's on my left side. It constantly cracks, it gets stuck, and it falls out of place when I try and open too wide. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it, Teresa. Apparently, when he heard the first explosion, he jumped off the couch like a dumbass, ran out front. Part of the blow debris knocked him down, and a huge piece of the engine landed on his legs and left him paralyzed from the waist down. Since my father had seen me, it was enough proof to press charges for arson and attempted murder. At the court hearing, my side counsel went on for an insanity plea using my burn scars and medical history. And witnesses from a family doctor, neighbors, and former coworkers to prove my father's abuse have pushed me over the edge. So many people had known. I watched my father as they recounted all the abusive events. His face never changed. He never showed any remorse, and when his attorney put him on the stand, he denied every single fucking thing. Mr. Patrick Henry, have you ever hurt your son? He looked down at his legs, trying to draw attention to his paralysis, then looked up at this attorney. No, sir, I have never hurt my son. His chin lifted a bit. I've always been a good father. He was the one who abused me. Right. I am disappointed that his father is not dead. Like shit. And obviously the father won because this guy's now in the Looney bin. Or was. He's trying to say that the kid abused him. Yeah, okay. I jumped up from my seat. You lying son of a bitch. My lawyer went to grab me, but it was too late. I'd already leaped over the table and headed towards the witness stand. The bailiff grabbed me and held me in a giant bear hug, yelling at me to calm down. I tried to pull away, but his grip only tightened, leaving me almost breathless. My father refused to even look at me. You goddamn lying son of a bitch. I will kill you, and next time I won't walk away until I know for sure that you are good and dead. I was found guilty by reason of insanity and sentenced to 5 years in an institution. That's how I ended up here. I didn't mind it too much when Dr. Huxley was running the place. He was a good guy. I asked him one day if I could get a tattoo. He asked why. Tattoos are like a roadmap of my life, Dr. H. I pointed out all the different tats and explained the stories behind them. And this one, Doc, I said, pointing to the one on my right calf, this was the last one I got while I was in jail awaiting my trial. I see, Joseph, hence the broken off arms of Lady Justice. Oh gosh. Well then, Mr. Henry, exactly what kind of tattoo did you have in mind? I wanted to get a tat of a rose with the letter E on it, as a tribute to being here at Emerson Rose. Ah, I see. He looked at me funny. A tribute? Quite frankly, I thought you despised being here. I hate wherever I'm at, Doc. This place, though, it's not so bad. At least I have food and shelter, and it's safer being locked up in here with loonies than it is being on the outside where the real crazies are. He laughed. I will think about your request. Can you imagine getting a tattoo while you're in the insane asylum because you want it to represent the place that you're staying at, and the doctor's actually gonna he's gonna think about it? What? What's wrong with me? He sounds like a great guy, this Dr. Huxley. It's really sad that he passed. He helped a lot of these patients. Like, he actually you could tell, he loved his job, he did a great job, and he actually had care and feeling for these people. Oh, wow. A week later, a tattoo artist came to my room. I had him tattoo the rose with an overlapping E on my right forearm. Things were good then. Then Dr. V, and the minute Dr. V Then came Dr. V, and the minute Dr. Van Old Dick showed up, we were all reduced to being cockroaches that scurried under the door to our rooms, hiding in a corner on our backs, legs twitching in the air. The Emerson Rose became the Roach Motel, where us roaches check in but can never check out. That's so sad. The worst part has been these jerks he brought with him, especially that goddamn little bitchy nurse telling me to calm down and get in touch with my anger. She did get hers once, when that old crazy man bit off a piece of her ear. You would think that stupid bitch would have learned. We all laughed, and none of us helped her, but she came to the group the next day with a bandaged ear, acting as if nothing happened. "How's the ear?" I asked, but she said we were here to talk about me, not her. Okay, well, it made me happy to see your ear bitten off, so can we talk about my happy feelings? I gave her a big smile so she could see I wasn't lying. I see. Her fog eyes stared me down. Why did that make you happy, Mr. Henry? Because you're a bitch and you deserve it. The group shook their heads. Oh my God. I see. Do I deserve it the same way you deserved being kicked? Or how about the cigarette burns all over your back and arms? Did your father do that because you deserved it? Okay, she's just being a twat now. I laughed. Yes, Nurse Darley, I deserved it. I mean, doesn't every 8-year-old boy deserve it? I do not know every boy, Mr. Henry. I was asking about you. Do you feel you deserved it? Yes. And I deserve spankings too. Would you like to spank me, Nurse Daly? The group laughed. No, thank you, Mr. Henry. Besides, I have a feeling you would like it. The group broke out in laughter. I crossed my arms and glared at her. She smiled and ended the group. I am not sure how she knew my father was the one who scarred me. Lucky guess, probably, but at every group after that, she always loved to say, "So, tell us about your father, Mr. Henry." He was an asshole, Nurse Darley. Thanks for asking. Then she continued to push me until I got so pissed that the orderlies came and held me off to my room. So she did it on purpose. I'm not like these damn crazies. I gave my father what he deserved. That doesn't make me crazy. It makes me a saint or a martyr or some kind of hero that strikes down the bad. Anyway, there's a group of crazies making plans to escape, so I've decided to join them. I figure with a one-armed chick, the screamless screamer, the big black guy, and a mute girl leading the way, that what the hell? Besides, they may just be crazy enough to pull it off. Joe Henry. Chapter 10, Birds of a Feather. Ha ha he he. I see the pretty blue sky. Yes, Alex, the skies are pretty. No, no pretty blue sky. Yes, the sky is pretty with its cotton candy pillow floating above. This is what the birds feast on, you know. No, no birds. Bad birds must die. No, we will not kill the birds anymore. We must let the birds fly unbound. No, pull the wings, rip them off. We must leave their wings on so they can fly free into the pretty blue sky. No, rip the wings with teeth. Watch them fly so pretty as their wings open through the wind. No, watch birds must die. We cannot kill those that fly. We must set them free, Alex. No, die. You die. I will not die. I will live to watch birds fly. No, you will die. I will kill you. I will. Hey, Tina. You cannot kill me. We both know that will never happen. No, will happen, will. Hate you. But I love you. No, love, hate. Hate me if you must, but that will not stop me from loving you. Yes, yes, I will stop you. I will. Okay, this one might be actually crazy. Shh, Alex, it's time to sleep now. Think of the days before, the days when mother wore her stunning petticoat dress and would lean down and gently kiss us on the forehead. Her smile shined and The words "I love you, little Arthur" would fill the air like a song. That warmed us on the inside, remember? Remember that feeling? March 2nd, 1978. Dearest Dr. Quill, I do apologize for the intrusion. Sometimes Alex has a hard time being quiet. He has been very calm for quite some time, but now his anger had been awakened. Alex knows he's not supposed to be angry, but sometimes when he is abruptly disturbed, it makes him irritable and troublesome at best. He has seen a great deal, Alex has. There's much he likes to be most boisterous about, but he must be quiet, for no one must know what Alex knows. Bless you, Claire. You see, Dr. Quill, I met Alex a long time ago. It all was when I was only 8, and it was after my mother and father had been tragically killed in an automobile accident. Uncle Ernst was the only surviving relative who would take me in, which meant it was either him or the local orphanage. Living with an uncle I had never met seemed far better than some wretched orphanage waiting for a couple to choose me like a puppy in a pound. So the day after my parents were buried, I was placed on a train with a ticket to Wisconsin. Uncle Ernst seemed quite nice in the beginning. He had owned a local pet shop that specialized in exotic birds. He was a clever businessman, though, because he also had a front window full of puppies and kittens, which of course attracted the local kitties. Uncle Ernst also had a special back room in the pet store where there were dozens of cages filled with squawking birds from all over the world. He also had a brown plaid couch with a bed pillow. This is where he took me and other children to play his special game. Oh, shit, trigger warning. I did not like to play a special game. I avoided the store whenever possible, every chance I got. I would purposely get into trouble at school because banging erasers on the chalkboard meant detention, and I was safe for one more day. On the days I was not so fortunate, I learned to vacate mentally from the premises. When it was over, I would run into the cornfield, lie down, look at the sky, and ask mother and father to make Uncle Ernst stop. Sometimes I felt like I could feel my mother's tears and that it would begin to rain. There were times I was able to evade the back room because the kiddies would come visit the pet store after school and alone. I suppose parents felt the pet store was a safe place and that a man like my uncle, who gave so generously to the community, was a most trustworthy man indeed. I always knew which children had paid a visit to the back room whenever they came into the store with their parents. Uncle would want to show the mother or father the specialty birds. The children would begin to cry and scream to their parents that they did not want to go back there. Parents were always agitated at the child's rude behavior and desperately apologized to the uncle. Wow. None of us ever said a word about my uncle's secret endeavors. We all knew the price we're telling. For Uncle Ernst would pull a kitty from its cage by the neck, dangle it in front of his visitor, and then slowly strangle the baby until it was no longer breathing, which taught all of us the importance of being quiet, very quiet. What a sick bastard. No, 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 birds. Birds bad. Must die. Die, die, die. Shh, Alec, it's all right. Go back to sleep. We are safe. Sorry, Alex does not like me having thoughts of Uncle Ernest. It's very upsetting to him. Now I know why he doesn't like birds. I lived with my uncle for one long year before he died of a sudden heart attack. I was placed in a local orphanage, and when asked if I had any other relatives, I swore to them that I had none. I did not want to venture into another relative's house. In fact, I did not want to live in anyone's house. The orphanage suited me just fine. I lived in the orphanage for 3 years, and no one bothered me there. In fact, nobody paid any attention to me and at all, and that was just fine by me. Whenever a couple came to look for a new addition to their family, I always made it a point to act out by cursing, spitting, and throwing tantrums. I did whatever I could to avoid adoption. However, one day a young couple was compelled to adopt me because of my behavior. I guess they wanted to save me. So I went home with the Johnsons. All might have been fine too if they hadn't had that damn squawking bird. Oh, frig. I despise that foul animal, and when it woke me up in the middle of the night with its constant squawking, I wrapped my fingers around its throat and silenced the damn thing. I must have saw the Johnsons were quite disturbed by the cockatoo's remains in the cage and a decapitated head on the floor. Mr. Johnson quickly packed up my few belongings and took me back to the orphanage. They made me talk to some old senile psychiatrist who immediately had me placed in an institution. That was when I first became acquainted with Alex. The institution psychiatrist saw me every day and never quit trying to make me talk about my parents, my uncle, the orphanage, and the incident at the Johnsons. I, of course, refused to talk and would instead just sit there in a comatose state and stare off into the distance. I would have nightmares about birds breaking out of their cages and pecking at my eyes until I couldn't see no anymore. I tried not to fall asleep, slapping and pinching myself to stay awake, but eventually I would fall asleep and then the birds would find me. Then one day I went to the psychiatrist's office and he had a bird cage in a cage next to him. What color is my bird, Arthur? He wanted me to look at the bird, but I said nothing and refused to look. He described the bird to me, told me its name, and then it squawked. I jumped out of my chair and ran to the corner of the room, crouched down, put my hands over my ears, and sang, "How much is that doggy in the window?" to turn out that horrendous bird screech. The psych doctor bent down next to me and pulled my hands from my ears. "Arthur, speak to me," he demanded, and that was when Alex came out. Oh, so he's got two different personalities. No, no, no. Yes, Arthur. No, Arthur. I, Alex, make Birdie die. I'm not going to kill the birdie, Alex. I kill bird, I kill. No, you'll not kill the bird, but I will take it out of here if you agree to talk to me. Make Birdie leave. Leave now. The psychiatrist called for a nurse and had her take the bird away. I went back to my chair and sat with my arms wrapped tightly around my legs. Are you feeling all right? I nodded yes. Who are you, Alex? I looked the psych in the eye. Sir, I have no idea who Alex is. I'm Arthur. I'll read on. Hey, Mama 3. Alex began to visit me in my room when we were alone. I would talk for hours, and we would have had many of the same interests. We would make fun of the staff at the institution, which always made us laugh so much. We would play games like chess and checkers in the rec room, and at night I would read him books until we both fell asleep. However, as much as Alex and I enjoyed each other's company, the institution did not see our friendship as appropriate, and they tried to take Alex away from me. Hey, Rhodey. They began with ECT and hydrotherapy. Alex despised the cold baths and would cry at night asking why they were trying to take him away. I told Alex no one would ever take him away from me. I only knew the way for both of us to survive was by learning how to keep Alex quiet. Get off the laptop. No, no. In talk therapy, I pretended to feel well and told them how Alex was going. I told them that what they wanted to hear, I was cured, thanks to their ingenious intervention. Alex and I talked only at night and when there was no ears around. He was very good at being quiet back then. And soon the institution let us go free. I was 18 by then and out on the streets, but I was free. We panhandled for money and stole food sometimes. I had employment as a dishwasher a time or two, but Alex would come out and I would get fired. One night we had found a small alleyway between two deserted buildings. An old rusted awning connected the two roofs, but it was enough to keep us dry from the rain. It was a rare find as there was no one else there, so I found the driest spot and curled up and went to sleep. We must have slept a couple hours before I was suddenly awakened by someone or something tugging hard on my pant leg. I scrambled to sit up, but my pant leg was being pulled on so hard that I could not get my bearings. It was then that I saw the broken shard of metal awning lying on the ground. I grabbed it and flipped myself over on my back. A man with dark greasy hair and a scraggly beard hovered over me. I stabbed him in the eye with the metal shard and he fell to the ground. I kept stabbing him and he started screaming bloody murder. Suddenly, a police officer came out of nowhere and grabbed me from behind and dragged me off the man. I began to laugh when the officer pulled his gun and pointed at me. I found it funny that the police were trying to help a criminal. After that, I was the one who wound up being arrested and thrown into a jail cell. This injustice irritated Alex so bad he could not remain silent any longer. He yelled all night in the jail, and I tried to calm him down, but he was out of control. The next morning, I ended up here. It was wonderful in the beginning when Dr. Huxley was alive. He knew Alex was my friend and did not try to take him away. Dr. Huxley always treated us as a duo. Arthur, would you and Alex like to play a game of chess with me? He would ask. If Dr. Huxley lost, he would always joke, well, Arthur, it was a game of 2 against 1. That always made Alex and I laugh. Then Dr. V came. What a horrible people he and Dr. Franks are. Evil. Evil, I tell you. They despise Alex and are trying to take him away from me. I have tried to quiet Alex and have pretended like he was gone, but it has not worked. They do not believe me, and they know to bring in a bird whenever they want Alex to speak to them. It's getting harder to control Alex. They enrage him every chance they get, and now they are forcing medicine down my throat. Medicine that is slowly taking me away from Alex. This is why I've decided to help them, Sable and the others. So far, I've collected a letter opener, a small glass picture frame, and candlestick, all of which I keep hidden in my mattress. During my visit with Dr. Franks, I was able to use Alex's outburst as a deterrent in order to sneak each item out, one at a time. We will escape this caged hell. I will do whatever it takes because I know that they will take Alex away from me forever. I will not have that, no. So I will fight in the battle against them and do all I can to win. Alex is all I have, Dr. Quill. I cannot lose him, or I will lose me. With the most humblest of regards, David House. Sorry, I'm just checking to see how long this chapter is. All right, I'll just read this last chapter. It's not the last one, but last one for tonight. I mean. It's chapter 11. It's called Lovesick. May 20th, 1978. Dear Dr. Quill, the way he brushed back the lock of brown hair always falling across his soft green eyes and his half turned up smile is what I remember the most. He was 13 and I was 12, but I knew from the moment I saw him. Sorry, the memories of him are still difficult. I suppose I should start from the beginning. My father skipped town right after I was born, forcing my mother to work 2 jobs to support us both. She waitressed at night, shift at one restaurant, followed by a day shift at another. My mother was a short, tiny woman who always wore brown hair and a ponytail that swayed back and forth whenever she walked. I don't really remember the color of her eyes, but I believe they were brown as well. I do remember, however, that she would always bring home leftover food from her day shift. She instructed me to eat only half the meal for supper and to save the other half for the next day's lunch. The only time I really saw my mom was when she would come home exhausted from her day shift, drop the food on the floor, sorry, on the table, and then go straight to bed to get some sleep before her next shift. Sometimes I would get a hello, but most of the time it was only me who said hello. I had a babysitter up until I was 5 years old. She was a fat, gray, old haired lady who just sat on the couch eating snack foods that she refused to share and knitting Afghan after Afghan. When I was old enough to start school, I was excited and eager to get out of the house. But after but after the first week, I was wishing I could go back to spending my days with the old fat knitting lady. From day one, I was made fun of at school, mostly because I had long, unruly blonde hair that spiraled into tiny curls that bounced uncontrollably all over my head. It also didn't help that my clothes were from the local secondhand store, or that I had to clean them myself in the kitchen sink and wasn't always able to get the stains out or mend what was torn. The teachers were nice, though, and let me help around the classroom after school. They also took the time after school to help me with English and arithmetic. I would hang around until the teacher had to go, and then I would trudge slowly back to my empty home. When I was 10, my mother used my mother sent me to visit my grandparents for the summer. When summer came to an end and I asked when I would be returning to my mother, my grandmother just looked down at the floor and let a long sigh. Well, sweetie, she murmured, fishing for words in her head. You see, as soon as your mother, well, until she gets her 2 feet on solid ground, she looked at me and forced a smile without finishing her sentence. I was not sure what 2 feet on solid ground meant, but I did know that I was not ever going back to my mother's. I cried myself to sleep that night, wondering what I had done wrong and why my mother didn't want me back. I lay in bed for the next several days, refusing to eat or even bathe. Then on Saturday, before school started, Grandma and Grandpa came into my room. Grandpa scooped me up out of bed and threw me over his shoulder. "You're taking a bath, little girl," he declared and tickled me. I tried not to laugh, but I couldn't keep a frown and I broke into a fit of giggles. Grandpa set me down in front of the bathroom door and Grandma handed me a towel. "You get cleaned up and then we'll take you shopping for a nice new pretty school dress," she said. She beamed at me and I beamed back. "I think we should buy her two new dresses," Grandpa teased. Grandma gave him one of her "I don't think so" looks. "Please, Grandma, please," I begged. "Will it stop you from moping around?" "Yes, I promise. No more moping." I quickly crossed my heart. On the first day of school, Grandma washed my hair in the kitchen sink, combed through my stubborn blonde curls, and then pulled them back into two tight but pretty braids with ribbons tied to the bottom. I put on one of my new dresses and I felt like a brand new girl. I was sure things would be different at this school and I would finally have friends, but I had not expected Tommy Shoemaker. Tommy and his crew were a year older than I was, and they would push, kick, and trip me. They would tell me I was so stupid that my parents didn't even want me. I never cried, though, and I think that's what bothered them the most. If I tried to sit next to any of the other kids at lunch, they grabbed their lunch tray and moved to another seat. I think most of them didn't want to be between me and Tommy and his crew lines of fire. I would stay safe on the playground by always sitting close to the yard duty teacher and reading a book. I pretty much figured that these bullies would rule my life until I was old enough to buy a car and leave. But that all changed when he came into my life. Hmm. Yeah, Teresa, I agree. It was abnormally a hot summer day, and just a few days before I'd be entering the seventh grade. I'd been sitting on the porch reading another Nancy Drew book when a moving truck pulled into the driveway next door. The place had been vacant since before I'd arrived, so it was exciting to have someone new move in our neighborhood. I tried to appear nonchalant as I looked for any sign of someone that might be my age, and that's when Evan suddenly jumped out of the passenger side of the truck. He was a couple of inches taller than I was, and I watched as he ran his fingertips across his forehead to brush back the hair that slid over his eye. I left my seat on the porch and walked over to the white picket fence that divided our houses. He saw me and promptly walked over and introduced himself. "Hello," he said with a slight nod. "I'm Evan Pearson." He extended his right hand, and I grabbed it and gave it a firm shake. "Hi, I'm Willow." I looked up into his soft green eyes, and I could feel my cheeks heat up. We had agreed during our brief chat to walk together on Evan's first day of school. On the way, I gave him a quick overview of the students and then told him about the town and how everybody knows everybody. As we started up the school's front steps, I felt my ponytails being yanked from behind and knew immediately it was Tommy Shoemaker. I stumbled backwards and my butt hit the hard cement surface. Tommy and his crew pointed at me and laughed hysterically. Humiliated, I hid my face behind my hands, mortified that Evan was witnessing my torment. All of a sudden, the laughter ended, and I could hear Tommy choking out the word "stop." I dropped my hands in surprise and looked up. There Evan was, with Tommy up against the wall in a chokehold. Tommy's feet were dangling in the air and his crew slowly backing away. Evan looked over at me, then loosened his grip and let Tommy's body slide down the wall until both feet were back on the ground. "Next time, I won't stop," Evan warned as he slowly let go of Tommy's throat. Tommy shook his head dazed, and then ran after his crew. Evan extended his hand and pulled me to my feet. "Are you okay?" His soft green eyes looked watery. "Yes, thank you." At first, I thought I was going to burst into tears, but instead, I reached over and gave Evan a warm hug. We stood in a tight embrace for what seemed like hours. It was as if neither of one of us had ever been hugged before. From that day on, Evan and I were always together. We walked to school together, and he waited for me after each class so he could walk me to the next one. When I look back now, I wonder how that boy ever made it to his own classes on time. We used to sit under the big oak tree in the back of the school and share our lunches. Then we walked home together. After my grandparents went to bed at night, I would crawl in my bedroom window and sneak over to Evan's house. We would lie on the couch and just hold each other until right before we knew his father was due home. Although we never spoke about it, I knew things were not well in Evan's home. I could hear his father sometimes screaming at Evan or his brother. I would hear things crash and bang, and sometimes Evan had bruises on his face and arms. He always claimed that he had fallen out of bed or down the stairs. or he had run into a low-hanging shelf. I went along with the story because I knew he was too full of shame to talk about it. Besides, I didn't want to talk about parents any more than he did. My grandparents never liked Evan. They did not say as much, but I could tell. I never understood why, because Evan's father was the new sheriff in town and everybody thought Sheriff Pearson was admirable. My grandparents may have known how Evan's father treated him and his brother, but if that were the case, I would think they would have been more empathetic. Evan's older brother, Andy, did seem to get himself into a lot of trouble around town, but that was Andy, not Evan. I think for the most part, my grandparents knew one day Evan would take me away from them. By the time I was 16, I rarely left Evan's side. His father kept having me around because he thought I kept Evan out of trouble. Since his dad was the sheriff, my grandparents had no say. In the fact I spent most of my free time at the Pearsons' house. My presence also seemed to help keep his dad's temper on an even keel. The one thing I couldn't protect Evan from, however, was the night. Evan and I had agreed that we would not subject ourselves to the temptation of him, and I was sleeping in the same bed together. We were saving that for marriage. So there were those nights that his dad would hit the bar first and then come home stumbling home at 3 in the morning. The noise was loud enough to wake me up, and I would lay there and cry. When Andy turned 18, he packed his bags. He had found a job a few hours away and didn't care what he want that he wouldn't graduate from high school. He just wanted out. Andy told Evan that he was taking him with him because he could not leave Evan alone with their father, but Evan would not leave without me. I could not let Evan live alone with his father either, so we packed our bags and we all left town in the middle of the night. Things were still good that first year, but then Evan turned 18 and needed to work to help pay bills. Andy helped Evan get on with the night shift at the cannery where he worked. Ever since we had skipped town, Evan and I had literally spent every second together. Neither of us had been going to school in fear we would be caught and sent back home. However, once Evan began working, he was too tired to spend any time with me, but instead slept all day while I sat on the couch and read books from the nearby library. I'm not making excuses, Dr. Quill, but that was the beginning of everything going wrong. Evan and I had still only kissed and held each other at night, and though we shared a mattress on the floor, we always stayed fully clothed. I did not know any different, nor had I ever wanted to know any different. Evan was gone most nights, but Andy was there every night, so we would talk and he would share his day with me. We watched TV, played board games, and shared supper time together like an old married couple. Andrew introduced me to whiskey. It tasted awful at first, but he would mix it with a cherry soda, and then I was able to down it. That's how I acquired a taste for it. The best part was, if I drank enough, I would pass out and fall asleep next to Evan. It made the days go by quicker. Evan was supposed to have the night off on my 18th birthday, but he wound up having to fill in for another worker who had called in sick. Evan had no present, no cake, not even a happy birthday greeting for me. He just grabbed his gear and said he would try to celebrate with me the next night. Without looking at me, he half-heartedly waved goodbye and headed out the door. I grabbed a blanket from the end of the mattress and lay on the couch. I tried to read, but my eyes kept blurring with tears, so I gave up and set the book aside. I started to doze off when I heard the key in the door. It swung open, and I saw a beautiful birthday cake, decorated with pretty pink roses, and Andy was singing "Happy Birthday to You." He put the cake on the on the counter, along with the whiskey and the 6 bottles of cherry soda that he had bought for me. "Come on, you, let's celebrate." I shook my head no, and tears ran down my face. "Hey, birthday girl, there's no crying on your special day." Andy walked over and sat down on the couch next to me. "Hey, beautiful, no tears." He wiped my face and then leaned over and kissed me. Oh, shit. He kissed me in the way Evan never had, and my whole body tingled. My palm held the back of my head as he slowly laid me down on the couch. He lifted my blouse and pushed my bra up, suckling my breast with his warm lips. I was overwhelmed with a pleasure I'd never felt before, and I did not want him to stop. The front door flew open. There stood Evan with anger like I've never seen before. He charged toward us. In one quick swoop, he yanked the heavy brass lamp from its resting place next to the couch and slammed it into the back of Andy's head, knocking him to the floor. Evan continued to pound on the back of his brother's head with the lamp again and again. I tried to grab for Evan's arm, crying and begging him for forgiveness, begging him to stop. He finally threw the lamp to the floor, pushed me aside, screaming, "You're a whore." He packed his bag and left. I never saw Evan again. The police came and arrested me for Andy's murder, and I pleaded guilty, but they never really believed me. They said that Andy had been hit with a force that my 4'8", 90-pound body could not have been behind. I stuck to my story though, so they put me in an institution and told me that they would release me when my memory of who was also in the room that night got better. They must have forgotten about me though, because I was transferred here a couple of years later. I thought it was gonna be like an RAPE situation, but luckily it wasn't. I've told you my story, Dr. Quill, to help you understand why I must join Sable and Jackie. 3 months ago, Dr. Vanadin started having deltas zapped in the head. At first, I did not seem to phase her, but I have to tell you that it was phasing Charlie right from the beginning. Her valiance must have really irritated Dr. V because after a while they began zapping Delta every night and eventually she was just flat out gone. Delta will not come out of her room now. She sits on her bed staring at the wall. Her hair has begun to fall out and she no longer wears fancy dresses or makeup. Charlie just sits on the floor next to her and next to her bed and wails. I deserved losing Evan for what I did to him, but Charlie does not deserve to lose his Delta. I know Dr. Vanadin will continue to zap poor Delta until she's dead, and I really believe it's all for his amusement. I will not let this happen to her. I cannot allow them to take her away from Charlie. If there was ever a man who loved a woman, it is Charlie. I will fight for their love in the way I should have fought for mine. True love lasts forever, either from pure joy or from pure pain. I do not want Charlie to know the kind of pure pain that befell me. I have nothing to lose by joining them, and there may be a chance I have something to gain. For if I can make it out of here, then I can look for Evan. I can find him and tell him the great suffering I have endured. Then he will know my love for him is true and everlasting. Love conquers all, and my Evan is all. Love, Willow. All right, I'm gonna stop there because I only have like 2 chapters left. I'll continue again tomorrow, and then I found some other things. Oh, electric shock. Yeah, I'll read the rest of the chapters tomorrow. I think there's only 2 left. So there's a very small portion of it left. So I'm gonna mix that with what did I find here? With a link I found about the Emerson Hospital, and it's in Concord, Massachusetts. It was founded in 1911. 40 acres. And then there was another one on Kingston, Rockwood Insane Asylum. And then I wanted to also read the America's Most Notorious Insane Asylum Hauntings. I thought that would be cool. So I was gonna do that tomorrow night while I finish the book. Yeah, no problem. I love that book. It's actually really great. Breaks my heart, makes me laugh, makes me angry. A lot of emotions that go with that book. All right, you guys have a great night. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.